Come! Come! Okay. My gorgeous, sexy ass singing. So, back to my little horror movie marathon. I'll get back to the Evil Dead and Child's Play films soon. Today I'm going to do a movie review on one of my favourite horror films and probably my favourite vampire film, honestly. That is The Lost Boys. Made in the year of 1987, directed by the late great Joel Schumacher, starring fucking Jason Patric, fucking Corey Haim, fucking Corey Feldman, Kiefer Sutherland, and fucking the mother that's in Edward Scissorhands, and Alex Winter. Jesus Christ, what a great cast, right? So yeah, basically what the plot of The Lost Boys is. Got this family, this mother who's recently been divorced, and her two kids, Michael and the other kid played by Corey Haim, the late great Corey Haim. And essentially they're moving to Santa Carlo to go live with their grandfather because they've gone through a hard year, they've had a divorce, and they're pissed off about the whole, having to move and all that. It's like, oh guys, I know it's hard, but this will be a great new start for all of us and all that kind of shit. So essentially they end up moving to Santa Carlo. They're like not too keen on it at first, and they go to live with their grandfather, who likes to do things like stuff animals and all this other weird shit, and also likes to put stuffed animals on Corey Haim's fucking dresser while he's sleeping, or his locker, that thing there, yeah, while he's sleeping, and wakes him up, frightens the fucking shit out of him. And they're like, oh, talk about it. It's a bit like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that. And then they're like, they don't know why. They're kind of wondering, why don't you have a TV and stuff like that. So they're basically just there fucking around being old scallywag boys. And essentially they go out into town to the fair and all this other stuff to basically have fun, do shit, browse, make new friends, all that kind of shit. And the mother wants to try and find a job, where she meets this guy who seems really nice at first, gives him a job, and eventually they hit it off and start dating. Meanwhile, Jason fucking Patric goes and meets a bunch of these groups, teens, these bikers. He keeps seeing this girl around and finds her very, 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 very attractive. And he wants to fuck her. Anyway, so essentially what ends up happening then is he fucking basically becomes friends with these motherfuckers, and from then on out, he's led by they're led by Kiefer Sutherland, but of course these guys are actually secretly vampires, because at the beginning of the movie we see them in the fair and they attack this random person in a very amazing scene. So they start fucking around, going on bikes, doing different things, starts making fun of them. They start doing many different fucking things, like going on the train tracks, hanging upside down, letting go. They go into this cave, start eating noodles, but they start turning into worms. Start drinking things, drinking blood. And then eventually they start doing all the sacrifice shit, and basically turns Michael into a vampire. And meanwhile, Corey Haim's character is just browsing around a comic book shop because he's a comic book fan, looking at different things like Superman, all these other comics. And essentially, he comes across these two guys named the Frog Brothers, one played by Corey Feldman. Now, I've already reviewed License to fucking Drive, so I believe this was their first collaboration together and how they became friends, but it's also the first movie I saw. Not the first Corey Feldman film I've seen, but it's the first Corey Haim film I've seen. But it's also the first time I've seen them work together in a movie. So yeah, so they end up hitting it off, becoming friends, whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah, look, here's a comic. Here's a comic for you," and all that stuff. And he's like, he's like, I don't like horror comics. Like, no, you're gonna need it. It's more of a guide because vampires exist. It's like, yeah, bullshit or whatever. And then he's also like, you can't put this comic next to this one. And Corey Feldman's like, what are you from? Krypton and all that shit. So yeah. But anyway, as the movie goes on, you know, he goes home, reads the comic, and many different things start to happen. Jason Patric witnesses some horrible shit, people being sacrificed, bald heads being eaten, and his attitude starts to change. He starts doing weird things that a vampire does, wearing these sunglasses. He starts starts having an attitude towards his mother, towards his grandfather when he's about to go out on a date. He's staying up pretty much all fucking night, going out at night constantly, staying up all day. No, not staying up all day, sleeping all day, and just being a fucking dick, being moody, liking this girl. And then Corey Haim thinks this other girl's like, what's this with his attitude lately? So, essentially, what ends up happening then is he starts to kind of cop on that he is a vampire. Essentially, sees him floating outside, sees him doing weird shit when he has a bath, freaks the fuck out, tells the Frog Brothers what to do, and basically does the usual stuff, you know, get a steak, get garlic, get some, you know, just does different things to defend himself, is afraid of, like, sleeping with the door open, and, you know, is, like, sleeping in with his mother and having, like, garlic connected to him. Basically wants to fucking defend himself, but doesn't want to hurt his brother, kind of wants to cure him. Meanwhile, there is this one kid who's part of the vampire cult who is lost, and we've seen him on milk cartons and stuff. And essentially, Kiefer Sutherland is the villain, going around causing havoc, being nasty, eating, killing people, whatever, turning people into vampires, fucking them up. Jason Patric feels like the girl, Star is the girl's name, betrayed him, but then they don't. They end up having sex. Have sex! Oh, perfect song to use, because that is a movie about a vampire also, and the People Are Strange song is in this. So yeah, essentially, Corey Haim teams up with Corey Feldman and the other guy, Frog Brothers, to try and stop these vampires and help Jason Patric, because Jason Patric sees how evil these fuckers are, and he wants to stop them. After they eat a guy, they eat his head, they sacrifice people, he basically wants to team up with them and stop them. And essentially, they do. They start trying to go to the nest, trying to stop all these other vampires, including Kiefer Sutherland. They also want to find the head vampire, because that's how they're going to kill all of them. And they're convinced that it's the boyfriend of the mother. But at first, they don't think it is, because they invite him to dinner and he tries to pour garlic, and things seem normal at first. However, as the movie goes on, we do find out that he is the lead vampire and all that. And then pretty much, you know, they want to go against Star, like the Frog Brothers and all want to go against Star, but they're like, no, Star's with me, don't hurt her, she's good. And they try to hurt the kid, but the kid's good as well. So eventually, final act is them trying to take down these vampires. They try and stab a couple of them. They do kill a couple of them in a great fight. We do get a great fight between these two. Eventually, when they kill all the vampires, it's revealed that the fucking nerdy looking motherfucker is actually a vampire himself. They end up stopping him. The grandfather ends up stopping him. They kill him. Save the day. He gets with her, and it's all, they all live happily ever fucking after. So what do I think of this film? This movie is a fucking classic. It is a classic 80s horror film. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. I've seen this movie multiple fucking times. Multiple times. Got this in 2013, this Blu-ray for Christmas. Watched it in 2013, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. I love this fucking film. Absolutely love it. Right? First of all, Great vampire film. Original, different. I love it. I love how it's dark and lighthearted at the same time. Let's start off, and creepy at times, with the opening. I love the opening to this film. You know, the little, the way the Warner Brothers logo pops up and you hear the cry little sister and that the real creepiness, and then you get these shots of like Santa Carla, like the doo, of the water, then just the do 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 do. Thou shalt not fall. Thou shalt not kill, and it's just all of this like fucking the fairground, and then you just hear this you see the fucking fairground going around, and the vampires walking around Kiefer Sutherland and all like, hey, get out of here, kids! I'm not gonna tell you again. Oh, don't worry, we're not gonna bother you anymore. And then you see the likes of Alex Winter and all of that, and they're just being, oh God, oh troublemakers, and they're there like, yeah, or whatever. And then they're walking around just doing things. You're like, what the fuck's going on? And then they go back to this kind of like, a guy's going back to this car, a couple, and like, oh yeah, it's nice. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, you see everything out here. And then you just hear this kind of like, what is that? And then the security guards there going, and then the fucking you get this point of view of them flying down. No, it's not a couple. You see the security guard there, and this thing is flying down. It's like, what is that? Like, and it's just this amazing, like, oh fuck, what just happened? So great way to kick off the movie, kick off the horror. Great. Another thing I love Kiefer Sutherland is pretty much the main villain until the actual main villain. I think he's great in this. He was very like his character in Stand By Me. I think I said that in my review for Stand By Me. Except obviously more evil in this because he's a fucking vampire. But I love the moments where like there's a moment where whatchamacallit, they're like when he first meets Jason Patrick's character. Jason Patrick is there, like, there's this cool concert going on, like, yeah, and they're fire and they're singing and like, yeah, and people are dancing, and then Jason Patrick's like, whoa, and then he's walking through like, let's go, man, and then like Jason Patrick's character's name is Mike, so like essentially Mike, whatever. So essentially Corey Feldman's like, come on, Mike, let's go. Oh, you're looking at that girl, aren't you? I won't keep you. He's like, yeah, man, get out of here. And I like that. He runs off and shit like that. And one sec. Oh yeah. So they're flirting. It's like, hi, what's your name? Star. What's yours? It's like Mike and all that. And they're kind of like flirting and dancing and looking at each other. And it's a nice scene. They're there. Like, come on, Star, let's go. And then they're on motorbikes. Like, who's this? Like, oh, this is Mike. Like, yeah, come on, Mike, you coming? No, yeah, sure, let's go. And then they drive like, like get these great scenes of them driving on bikes, like, yeah, like crazy, like, wow, and him like getting in with the wrong crowd. It definitely adds meaning to that. And they're like, yeah, let's go, and driving around like, yeah, let's go, man. And he's like, come on, Michael, let's do it, and all this fucking crazy shit. And then you're like, oh fuck. And then you get this great scene that's iconic, like, come on, Mike, let's do this, right? What are we doing? And then they go on like a fucking train track. And you're like, oh shit. It's like, come on, let's go. And they're like, wow, let's go, Geronimo. I was like, what are you doing now? And then like they're hanging underneath it, and they're hanging upside down, like, yeah, let's do this, And you're like, I don't want to do that. Like, oh, come on, you chicken shit. He's like, no, come on, Mike, do it. And then the train goes past, like, this is awesome. And they're like, wow. And they let go. I was like, no, let go. I'm not going to let go. And it's like, oh, fuck. Come on, Michael, it's great down here. And then they let go, like, And it's fucking awesome. And I love it. And it's like, oh, shit. But you get these kind of other scenes as well that are just really fun and funny. Like I like when Corey Haim is walking around the place, and he's in this comic book store, and you see Corey Feldman and the other guy, and they're kind of like looking around, like, it's like, what are you doing? And he's like, wow. He's like, what are you doing here? He's like, no, they're just kind of looking. He's like, can I help you guys with anything? He's like, yeah, we're part of this comic story. Work here. It's like, yeah, well, listen, you can't have the Superman comics with the Batman 81s with the Batman 92s. It just doesn't work. And he's like, where the hell are you from, Krypton? He's like, where the hell are you from, Krypton? It's like, no, Sandy Carl or whatever he was from, actually. It's like, yeah, just moved here with my folks. Like, yeah, this is a weird, Sandy Carl is a weird place. Full of vampires. It's not true, man. And then they're just kind of back and forth. It's like, yeah, you gotta be careful. We gotta stop these people. And he goes, we're dedicated to a higher purpose. We're fighters of truth, justice, and the American way. He's like, all right, that's great. Have it. It's like, I'm not into horror comics. Seriously, you gotta have this. Like, no, I don't like horror comics and all that. So I like that aspect of it. It's like, I don't know. And then later on, he comes back, here, you gotta read this. It's like, no, I told you I don't like horror comics. No, it's important. You gotta read it. You know, that kind of shit. So I love that. And it does end up, it's an original comic in the movie, and it does end up being important later, which is like an interesting thing. But I love the set design in the whole, like, the fucking underground, like, vampire lair that the villains have. You know, it's like fucking great. It's like, come on, Michael, yeah! It's like lighting fire. It's like, you want some of this? You got some Chinese food? It's like, yeah, sure. And then like, they're eating soup, and then he looks at it, and then he looks down, and he goes, you're eating worms, Michael. And they're like, he's like, ah! All that kind of shit. It's like, ugh. You know, and then that's with the spaghetti, and he's eating rice, and he's like, Michael, you're eating maggots. Ah, stop it. It's like, you idiot. It's like, oh, let me guess, I'm eating this. No, you're eating that. No, stop it. And like, stop me. And the star's like, stop making fun of him. It's like, oh, get over it, you know. And there's all of that kind of shit, and you're like, oh, fuck. You know, Star is a likable character that doesn't want to be in this shit. But, you know, Kiefer Sutherland's just being like that, so he's getting him to drink wine, and it's like, his blood, he's like, drink some of this, Michael. Be one of us. Drinks it, and it's like, oh shit. So I'm like, I love that. I love the shot and that, the dark scene. He's like, no, and he's like, ugh, he's like rubbing his eyes. Because Michael at the beginning is like a fun guy, and one thing I love is that him and Corey Haim, they have a close brother relationship. They get along with each other, you know, they're not like hating on each other like at the beginning of the movie, like, come on, it's like, oh, you know, they have like at the beginning they're driving around like, oh yeah, it's great, like, I can't wait to move here. Why couldn't we go somewhere else? Like, oh, it's a nice place. Why couldn't we go somewhere else? No, it's like, oh guys, I know it's been hard since I divorced from Dad, but we gotta try and enjoy it. It's like, yeah, sure. And then of course you get the amazing intro music with everyone going around and all that stuff, and you get the cover version of "Do no no no, people are strange. When you're a stranger, faces look ugly when you're alone." And you have people acting weird, you know, and it's like extras and stuff. It's like, when you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange, people are strange. And it's just a great version of that song. Brilliant cinematography in that. And the carnival music. I also love the part where the couple are out in the car like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have the like, and the fucking roof of the car gets torn open, and they're like, no, and getting eaten, and it's like, oh shit. But yeah, as I said, the brother relationship between Corey Haim and Jason Patric, it's fucking great. Like, you know, at the beginning they're walking in like, hey, and the grandfather's like, hi there, how are you? Let's. Oh no. When they get to the house, they drive or whatever, and they're like, yeah, let's go. And they're open the door like, whoa, is this Grandpa's house? Like, where is he? And he's like, and Grandpa's lying on the ground. Like, oh, is he dead? He's like getting up and he's pretending to be dead. He's like, hey, if he's dead, can we go? Can I get the TV? He's like, No, I'm not dead. Can we go home? He's like, I'm not dead. I was playing dead, you idiots, and all that. He's like, how are you doing? Oh, Dad, don't be doing that. And before that, she's like, oh, Dad, get up. And it's like, how are you doing? You look great. It's awesome. And then he opened the door and they're like, come on, this is something like out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Mike. And he's like, Mike, do you see what's wrong with this picture? There's no TV. There's gotta be a TV. And all that. And it's like, oh, God. And then I love when they're running around the house, like, guys, don't running in the house. Like, oh, come on, let's go. And all that. And then I like how the grandfather and the mother are bonding, like, oh, Dad, it's been hard on them. Oh, yeah, it hasn't been hard, you know? And the grandfather is a great character. He's fucking hilarious and stuff like that. And then they run in, they open the thing, and it's all this weird shit hanging. And he's like, talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hey, come on, Mike, let's go. And he's like, hey, Mike, hey, Grandpa, how come you have a TV guide and there's no TV? Hey, you don't need TV, you need to do chores. He's like, I just have the TV guide because I like to read. I like to read it. And it's like, oh, God. And I love different things when they're doing things. Come on, help me out with this thing. And I love when they're fixing up the car. Like, come on, hey, fix up the car. It's like, yeah, okay, when do we get to take it out? You don't. But you start up the engine. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's a piece of crap. It's just all that kind of funny stuff. And I love every time where he's like, I got you something. It's like, oh, what is that? Okay, no. He's like, yeah, I got that stuffed animal for you. He's like, what is that? Okay, no. And every single time he wakes up, oh, there's a stuffed animal. He's like, yeah, I want to put this away. And I was like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a present for you. And he's like, yeah. And it's looking at him at night, and he's like, yeah, puts it in the closet. I love all that kind of subtle humor. I love these, like, the horror scenes that are still sprinkled out. Like, there's a scene where the mother goes to try and visit the boyfriend, you know, and she's like, and the dog's there barking like, hi, Lester. And it goes, and she's like, ah, and she runs away, and the dog's like, and it's like, she closes the gate, like, oh my God, you know, and it's like, oh shit, that's unsettling. I like how the car goes, but yeah, I love Mike's character development when he gets traumatized and he's kind of like, oh, he wakes up in the morning and she's like, and he's like, oh, Mom, please turn it off. It's like, come on, Mike, it's like 2:30. It's like, get up. It's like, oh, no, go away, man. It's like, no. You know, and his attitude's like, come on, Mike, what's up with you, man? Your attitude's been, it freaking stinks lately, dude. It's like, you're staying up late, you know, and the mother's like, you're staying up late, or you're sleeping all day. He's like, I don't care. It's like, take those sunglasses off, please. Like, no. And then he goes out and she's like, I want us to be friends now. Are we not able to still talk? It's like, no, Ma, I gotta go. Okay, I gotta go. And just starts acting all fucking emo. And I like all of that kind of crazy shit. I love all the scenes back at the lair, like, yeah, Michael, let's go, that's great, yeah. And they're like, wow, jumping in, and all the scenes that take place back at the lair are great with all the fucking candles and shit. I love that. You know what I mean? I like the build up to them becoming vampires, and I love the part where they're like, um, the Frog Brothers want to help out. But of course, like, okay, you gotta, can you, he's like, she calls, like, look, I'm having a date tonight. Can you please babysit Michael? Can you please babysit? I want to make sure he's okay. He's like, yeah, sure. They also have a dog in the house as well. Like, hey, man, what's up? You know, because they bring a dog with them. Like, come on, buddy. Come on, boy. And all that shit. But I love a lot of different little sweet scenes. Like, hey, Mom, can you do that? It's like, yeah. Can you close the door, please? And she's like, yeah, sure. You know, one of the reasons I divorced your father is I was afraid of he didn't believe in the thingy. But he was like, yeah, because when I was a kid, I used to sleep with the closet door closed as well. So I like that little mother and bonding thing. And the mother is really likable. She's really, really fucking likable. Max is the fucking guy's name. That's what I was trying to remember. Max is the villain's name, I was trying to remember. But I love the moments where she's like walking around and stuff like that, and Max is just a regular guy in the shadows working in a video store, and I was like, there you go, man, there you go, it's great. And she's like, and then there's a kid like, oh God, I can't find my mom. Have you lost your mother? An actual lost boy. And she's like, here you go, thank you. It's like, wow, you're great with children, thanks, yeah. So what are you looking to rent here? I was just moved here. It's like, what are you looking to rent? I was actually hoping to get a job. Oh, that'd be great. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. How about we have dinner tomorrow? Like, oh yeah, sure, that's great. All this kind of like sweet scenes. But they're all suspicious that there's something up with Max. Like, he's like, is Max, is he weird? Like, no. Does he see his reflection? No. Does he like garlic? Like, no. He's a vampire, right? Like, is your brother acting weird? No. Can you see his reflection? No. He's a vampire, right? And then, like, even when Mike looks in the mirror, there's no reflection. It's all that kind of shit. I'm like, oh, fuck. There's a great scene when they're on a date, like, oh, this is great. And every time that they try to go on a date, it keeps getting fucking ruined. Like, oh, shit, they're on a date. Like, oh, I gotta go home early. Something's after happening. Something's after coming up. It's like, oh, okay, sorry. Like, like, let's stay here. Oh, it's great. And all that. And they're eating, and essentially it's like, oh, something bad is happening. So what? Oh, I'm sure it's just a child's imagination, but he says that people are vampires. And I was like, oh, no, that's not true. That's like way later on in the movie as well. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like, humor me. It's like, I promise I won't laugh. Runs away, and she runs away home. Like, oh, I gotta go home. Something's come up, something horrible happens. And essentially, I was like, you have your bath, yeah. And then there's like a moment where the grandfather's like, oh, I gotta go on a hot date. Ew, it's nice lavender. And then like Mike says something a little bit rude, like, oh, yeah, you'll go out smelling like that, or something like rude. And then he's like, okay, bye. Walks off, and he's like, that wasn't funny, Mike. And all that kind of shit. And you're like, so he goes off, and then you get this moment where essentially he goes upstairs and he starts like bathing himself. He's like, that scene. They're like, oh shit, singing some tunes. And then like you have Corey, like the wind's blowing, the great fucking atmosphere. And then like Jason Patrick's like, oh, help me. And something happens, and then the lights kind of go crazy, like, and all that stuff, something smashes and all that. And then what's happening? And then he's like knocking at the window. He's like, what's happening? And then he's like, help me. He's like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? I'm going to get you. And then he runs downstairs, and then he opens the door, and then he's like, Mike, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then he's covered in blood because the dog's like, and the dog bites him like, ah. It's like, what's wrong with you? What have you done to my dog, Mike? You asshole, did you hurt my dog? It's like, no, he's there. It's fine. It's like, what's happening? I'm a vampire. Like, one of them, aren't you? Yeah. Oh my God, you're a vampire. I can't believe it, Mike. My own flesh, my brother, my own flesh and blood. Oh, you wait till Mom hears about this, buddy. She's gonna kill you. Oh, no, don't hurt me. I'm not gonna hurt you. Like, please let me in. And like, the floating effects are like fucking awesome. It's like, okay, please, I don't know what else to do. You gotta help me. You gotta help me. They're crazy. I'm not like the others and all that. It's like, okay. And then he's on the front of Frog Brothers. Like, he's like, you sure he's a vampire? He's like, yeah. He's on the front of Corey Feldman. It's like, oh yeah, he is. Yeah, we gotta help you out and all that. We gotta kill the head vampire. So Danny's reading the horror comic, and I love when he's like, oh, he's like, what's wrong? Oh, scary comic, ma. He's like, what are you doing reading? It's like, oh, just reading this comic, ma. And he's like, oh, it's scary. I'm pretty scared and all that. And then like he freaks out, like, oh, whatever. Then he comes in and he's like, hey, ma, can I sleep with you? And she's like, yeah, sure, why? It's like, oh, it was a scary comic, ma, or whatever. It's like, gets in, it's like, yeah, of course you can. And then he goes, oh, were you eating pizza? It's like, no, ooh, smell like garlic. It's like, oh no, and all that. And I like when he gets the steak, the garlic, and he's getting overly paranoid. And when he's acting like a bit, weird, like, what's happening? Like, oh, these vampires, like, no, whatever. It's like, you gotta stop this delusions and all that. It's like, and then he goes, yeah, it was a scary comic. It's a scary comic. I'm sorry, I was lying. That kind of shit. And then, of course, there's the moment where Max goes to the house. Like, okay, he's coming over tonight. It's like, okay, we gotta be prepared. We gotta come with you. Are you sure? It's like, yeah, we gotta be there. And all that. And the Frog Brothers want to be there as well. And they're like, oh shit. So they're ready, like, to get ready. It's like, here it is. And then grandfather's like, what's going on? And all this. It's like, is he coming over? It's like, yeah. Oh, they're coming over tonight and all that kind of shit. And it's like, yeah, it's like, hi, and then they kiss, whatever. Sit down, they're like, yeah, and they're like, so what are you doing and all that? It's like, oh, not much and all that. And he's eating, and then the Frog Brothers are kind of there. It's like, oh, hey, Mom, having guests. These are the Frog Brothers. Hey, what's up? It's like, oh, I didn't know you were bringing friends and all that. And then they're all at the dinner table, and it's a great kind of suspenseful, awkward scene. So, your mom tells me this, that, and the other. He's like, oh, yeah. It's like, oh, do you want this and garlic? It's like, no. It's like, oh, God, no, I don't want that. It's like, but you hate garlic, don't you? Oh, yeah, I'm just allergic. Of course you are. Do you like that? No, do you want this? Like, what are you acting like this? Do you want this? And she throws water on him, holy water. It's like, oh my God, stop it and all this stuff. What are you doing? He's like, oh, stop it. Oh, it's okay. He's like, no, you're a vampire. He's like, no, I think I know what all this is about. You do? Yeah. I'm not trying to replace your father. He's like, no. And he's like, what? He's like, that's it. And she's like, okay, whatever. I have to have a word with you, young man. And then eventually he's like, Mom, I'm sorry, and all that kind of shit. He's like, well, we can do this some other time. We'll do it at my house, whatever. Next morning, it's like, oh, I'm sorry about all that. And it rings and calls. They call each other, and she's like, we can just do this. I'm really sorry about that. It's like, yeah, we'll do it at my house tonight. All that kind of shit. But as the movie goes on, there is a very sinister scene. There's the scene where Kiefer Sutherland reveals to Robert Patrick, Mike, that he is a vampire. Because throughout the movie, he's like, yeah, let's go, Michael. And they're running, they're driving, and then there's that fucking scene. We're like, come on, Michael. And they're like, come on. They're flying around, they're getting bodies, they're eating people, like, and the guy bites. He's like, no, and it's bloody, and he bites a guy's bald head, and he's like, hello, Michael. And then, like, you have Alex Winter going, hello, Michael, and he's like, and then he's like, oh, what? No. And then, like, he's there, like, with the fangs, and they're like, oh, shit. And like, and it's like this really nightmarish scene. And then Robert Patrick goes to fucking the girl. He's like, no, how could you do that? It's like, no, please, listen, no. And all that. And then you see the kid as well, and a couple of other scenes, like, as well. I was like, no, what do you do? Please, don't leave. Please just stay with me tonight. And then you hear the, thou shalt not fall, cry, little sister. Then they make out, and they have sex, poop my answer, yes. So, yeah. But I love this film. I love it. Especially love final act, the build up. Like, we gotta stop it. It's like,